Today, America's largest power market tried to buy enough electricity to guarantee reliability during peak demand. For the second year in a row, it failed. That is no longer a warning. It is a pattern. Welcome back to Synthetic Politics. This is a quick update on a story we've been tracking closely. In our last video, we looked at the growing strain AI data centers are placing on America's electric grid. Today, three major developments landed almost simultaneously, pushing that story forward. The first is the latest capacity auction from PJM Interconnection. PJM operates the power grid, serving roughly 67 million people across 13 states and Washington, D.C. Its annual capacity auction secures enough generating resources to keep the lights on during peak demand. This year's auction, covering the year beginning in June 2028, came up 6.8 gigawatts short of what PJM says is needed to guarantee reliability. That's roughly the output of 7 traditional nuclear reactors. The auction cleared at its price cap of $325 per megawatt day for the third consecutive auction under that cap. Without it, PJM estimates prices would have reached $554 per megawatt day, about 70% higher. Data centers accounted for roughly $6.3 billion of the auction's $16.4 billion total cost. Across the last 3 auctions combined, the data center share approaches $30 billion. PJM's independent market monitor called the repeated shortfall not an acceptable way to go forward. PJM now plans to ask the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission this September for a new backstop procurement mechanism designed to make rapidly growing data centers pay for the added capacity their expansion requires. Then came Washington's response. According to Reuters, the White House plans to bring together utility companies and data center developers in the coming weeks to sign a voluntary pledge aimed at ensuring AI-driven electricity demand doesn't raise power bills for households and businesses. Whether a voluntary agreement can address a structural shortfall of nearly 7 gigawatts is now a central question facing regulators, governors, and utilities, along with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which has scheduled a conference on grid governance for July 23rd. The third development changes part of the story we told in our previous video, and it's important to address directly. Last week, we cited PJM capacity market costs as evidence that data centers were raising household electricity bills. New research published this week suggests that conclusion was incomplete. A working paper from the Electric Power Research Institute found that states which doubled their data center capacity between 2015 and 2024 actually saw residential electricity rates fall by roughly 3.5% on average. A separate paper from Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy reached a similar conclusion, finding that recent retail price increases were driven primarily by grid hardening, disaster recovery, fuel volatility, and regulatory costs, not data center demand itself. The economics here are straightforward. Data centers are large, steady electricity customers. As utilities sell more electricity to them, fixed costs spread across more kilowatt hours, lowering the average retail price. That doesn't invalidate the PJM story. Capacity market costs and retail electricity rates are 2 different parts of the system, and both matter. The debate over who pays for new generating capacity remains unresolved. But the relationship between AI data centers and your monthly electric bill is more complicated than a simple cause and effect story. We should have made that distinction more clearly in our previous video. So where does that leave us? The grid remains under real strain. For the second consecutive year, America's largest power market could not procure enough capacity to meet its own reliability target. Washington is attempting to respond through voluntary coordination. and who ultimately pays for the infrastructure behind the AI economy is still unanswered. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's conference on July 23rd could mark the first significant regulatory response to these challenges. We'll be watching, and we'll cover what happens next. If you found this update useful, hit like, subscribe to Synthetic Politics, and I'll see you in the next one.